Hello class and welcome to this Gradius NES walkthrough right here on Video Games 101 by way of Let's Play with Brigands. I'm your instructor, Professor Brigands, and are you sure you want to do this one? This is one of the most difficult side-scrolling shooters ever made. Even Konami has admitted as such in one particular way. Fluff is going to talk about that a little bit later. In terms of difficulty, I'm going to go ahead and give this a 9 out of 10, which on the frustration scale equates to writhing around on the floor, cursing in tongues, typically because you picked up one extra power-up than you meant to, or you activated it at the wrong time, and you paid the price. So let's run the intro and get into this absolute classic, but can't overstate how difficult this game is, from Konami. Stay tuned. That's right, this game is a port of an arcade game, which probably explains the difficulty. Fluff will talk about that, but let's take a look at the controls for Gradius. Very simple, which is good because nothing else about this game is. Move with the D-pad, attack with A, and then whatever power-up you currently have selected based on the number of power-ups you've picked up. Activate that by hitting B. As we take a look at the Briggs notes now for Gradius, number 1, obviously for a shooter like this, ABF, always be firing. Get the missiles, the laser, the 2 options, and the shield combo. Blaze is going to talk more about this. Skip level 3. I'll be talking about how we can do that. And keep the same speed, just for consistency's sake, for just your own personal feel. And finally, be ready with the replacement shield at all times when you have that luxury. First and foremost, we just want to collect the power-ups from the specially colored enemies, the ones that are in red, like that little guy right there. There we go. You can see every time we pick up one of these things, our meter at the bottom moves over 1 to the right before it repeats. So this is the one we currently have selected, and then we can redeem that with B. So once we get one more, we'll be able to grab our first option, which will give us a second gun. I'm going to step on Blaze's toes. We'll have him talk about that in just a moment. You can see we have one right there. As a general rule, the safest place on the screen is kind of in the middle, more on the left side, not too far left, as enemies pop out from the left side occasionally, but by the way, there's a hidden 1-up. If we sweep up here, don't get too close to the rock, you'll die, and we have our first boss with Gary.
It's Scary Gary's Boss Beaters.
Right, the first boss in Gradius. You want to find that sweet spot, it's in the top left corner, and if you have the missiles to fire beneath you, and lasers, you can basically stay safe in that one spot. Just keep firing, eventually you'll get to move on. Good luck.
Thank you very much, Gary. And now to finally take a look at all of these power-ups we can redeem, let's go to Blaze for an overview. Blaze?
Alright, let's talk about the power-ups you can unlock in Gradius. I'm going to talk about my preferred kind of combination. I know the professors talked about this a little bit, or will talk about this, but let's talk about what each one does on that bar at the bottom of the screen. First, we have the speed up. Pretty straightforward. The speeds up your ship, makes it much faster in handling. I like to top mine off at around 4, somewhere 3 to 4. You go too much faster than this, it gets a little too sensitive for my liking, and you might end up going a little bit too far, hitting that projectile you didn't mean to. But if you go below a 3, your ship is a little too sluggish, can't get out of the way of the many, many projectiles in this bullet hell game. Second, we have the missile. Drops missiles and they crawl on the ground if they don't hit any targets ahead of time. Very useful. I recommend working this into your configuration. Next, we have the double. This fires above your ship, similar to the missile. I prefer the missile over the double. I'd rather have the lower targets taken care of rather than the above ones, but that's your preference. You have the laser, which goes through targets. You can have either the double or the laser. So again, I prefer the laser because it goes through targets, very powerful, and then combine that with the missiles beneath me, and then you only have to worry about what's above you. And then we have the option, which adds an extra turret to your ship, basically doubling whatever attack that you have at the moment. So if you have laser, these are going to fire more lasers for you. double, etc. You can max out at 2 of these, unfortunately, but they are a help. Activate these when you can and hold on to them. And finally, the question mark, wonder no more. I'm here to explain to you that this is the shield. You can take 5 hits once you activate this. And I think the professor mentioned this as part of the Briggs notes. You want to have your cursor on this later in the game when you have all the power-ups. Always have this ready when you have your configuration pretty much sorted so that whenever you take damage and that shield disappears, you can quickly reactivate that shield, basically having it on deck whenever you need it. So good luck with this very, very difficult game, but there you go. The weapons and items and power-ups you can activate in Gradius.
Thank you, Blaze. Boss 2.
Boss beaters.
Boss 2, try and keep left and just fire that laser and missiles constantly. Nothing too crazy here, just do as we show and you'll take them down.
Thank you very much, Gary. We mentioned in the Briggs notes to skip level 3. We're not going to, but we're going to show you how to do it with Fluff.
Here in Gradius, you have the opportunity to warp on the first 3 levels to skip over the upcoming level, but your ability to warp is tied to specific criteria on each of these first 3 stages. Specifically, on level 1 you need to destroy the 4 total hatches which are on the ceiling and floor when the thousandths digit of your score is even. Once Big Core, the mini-boss after each stage, blows up either by your weapons or on its own, you'll automatically begin warping. So avoid those Easter Island looking heads before you arrive on the stage after the one you skipped. On level 2, you need to destroy Big Core within 2 seconds of its turning blue. Your best bet is firing as many turbo optioned up lasers into that small opening in the middle as possible. But if you can pull this off, you'll skip the very difficult level 3. And finally, on level 3, if you destroy 10 or more of the statue faces on the level, then after Big Core blows up at the end of the stage, you'll skip level 4 and go straight to level 5. Obviously, 2 is the max number of warps you can do in one playthrough of Gradius, going from 1 to 3 and 3 to 5, but in a game like this, any bit helps.
Thank you very much, Fluff. Alright, so the reason I hate this level so much is just there's so much going on. There's so much to dodge. You want to have that replacement shield primed and ready. Try to keep a mental count in your head of how many shots your shield is taken so you can be ready. You know when you've only got that 1 shot left, the shield does turn red, so you can be ready with that activating A button at that point. We can destroy the Easter Island-like heads by just putting enough shots in their mouth, essentially. By the way, there's a hidden 1-up between the 2 statues at the top if you fly down between them. Also, again, keep in mind, if you take out 10 of these, you will have that warp, so just something to remember. We do have our shield primed up right now. This is generally the level where I burn through the most lives. And the problem, obviously, is, in a game like this, you're only as strong as your power-ups that you're rocking at the time. So if we lose a life, we're going to start hemorrhaging lives left and right. So you want to, obviously, protect when you have that full loadout as much as possible. Kind of like playing Contra without the spreader instantly gets a lot more difficult, and this next boss certainly qualifies as difficult. Gary?
Boss beaters.
Alright, boss 3, you want to bait the enemies to the top or bottom of the screen, and then transition to go around them when you have an opening. Watch out for their projectiles, and it's just a lot easier in my experience than trying to shoot them head on and just avoid them. Go the pacifist route, Fifi McSteels Jr., and avoid those shots and just move around them to get them to go past you. It works.
Thank you very much, Gary. That's probably the best run I've ever had at that stage, as I do have I had that shield in my pocket, ready to go. Normally at the point in the event that I do clear that level, I'm down to a red shield, if any shield at all, so pretty pleased with that. Not saying the rest of the game is cake. There are some other challenging levels, 6 for example. Again, if you want to skip a next level, just put a bunch of shots into that kind of mini-boss right there. Otherwise, just dodge it up and down as we show right there, and move on to round 4 in this case. The beginning of these stages is always a good time to reload on your power-ups, when things are nice and relatively calm, as you can see right here. Especially important on that first stage so you can hit the ground running, but while we're doing this, let's go back to Fluff for another Fluff fact about Gradius.
Gradius was released by Konami for the NES in 1986. To help explain the difficulty, bear in mind that this was initially a Konami arcade release from 1985. The European release of this game is called Nemesis, presumably after the role it played in so many gamers who played its lives. The NES port is pretty similar to the arcade, but one frustrating difference is they cut the amount of options, i.e. extra guns you could have for your ship, from 4 in the arcade to 2 here. It seems that one of the sadists at Konami decided the game was a bit too easy in the arcade and needed some way to dial it up.
Yeah, not sure whose idea that was, but there you go. Normally they make things, well, maybe not easier, but just the fact that you don't have to burn through coins makes it easier. You can just play the game over and over again and get good at it, or go insane with a round 9 difficulty, writhing around cursing, just to remind you. Though it's hard to say if you would spend more money in quarters at the arcade or just the $30 or $40 that you normally had to dish out in mid-80s dollars, that is, adjusted for inflation. There's a hidden one-up on the left side of that rock for what it's worth if you fly up. I was trying to hold on to my prep shield, but sometimes it's more difficult avoiding power-ups in this game. Got the next boss coming up now, kind of a repeat of the first one. Let's go back to Gary.
Boss beaters.
Alright, Boss 4, you want to stay still beneath the left volcano at the bottom of the screen and keep firing. You don't even need the double power-up right here. It can help, but you should be good in this one spot as we show.
Thank you very much, Gary. So far, boss beaters have been on point. Sometimes it's just about finding that right spot on the screen in the case of those 2 volcano bosses. By the way, I've been pointing out most of the hidden one-ups. Every stage in this game except for the 5th and the final stage have a hidden one-up if you fly in the right spot. We pointed it out in the 1st, the 3rd, and just that last stage, but the second stage has one too. Didn't get a chance to point it out, but it's right before the boss in between the white stones. If you just kind of thread in there, you can pick that up for what it's worth. Unless we always go through the stands, Big Core. You're pointless after the 3rd level, as far as I'm concerned, with the lack of warps from that point. As we have another instance where we can stock up on power-ups, and this is another instance where I might just take the shot, so we can use the shield here. There we go. Top it back off, and get ready to have another one ready on deck for us. I think I accidentally pulled the trigger on another speed upgrade without meaning to earlier. Your mind tends to go in the heat of battle when everything gets a little crazy. Got that blue one that clears all the enemies for what it's worth, by the way, but... Alright, we got our next boss. Very quick. Tough one, Gary.
Boss beaters.
Alright, Boss 5, you want to alternate between the top and bottom to lure the bullets, and then you just want to transition, similar to the boss of the 3rd level. And when you have the opening to avoid the damage, just watch out for those claws, the tentacles, whatever, and you'll be in good shape.
Thank you very much, Gary. Yeah, meatball, brain, shrimps? I don't know. Yeah, you could shoot them or just avoid them like Gary says. If you want to fire your gun, actually, just to add some more chaos to the frame rate, slow things down a little bit, kind of work it as a hack in your favor. Not a bad idea. But yes, very difficult like everything else in this game. Speaking of difficulty, let's go to Fluff now for some information on something that's going to make this game a little bit easier, and a historic fact at that. Fluff?
Considering how hard this game is, let's talk cheat codes. It wouldn't be a Konami game without cheats, and incidentally, this is the first instance of the famous Konami cheat code in a game. When paused, press up, up, down, down, left, right, BA to get the missile, 2 options, and a shield. You can only do this once unless you take out Big Core after a stage before its core turns red. Also, if you run out of lives at any point from level 2 or beyond, you can continue on that same stage in the game by pressing down, up, BA, 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 BA when it says game over at the bottom of the screen. One last thing to mention, while a turbo controller seriously helps here in Gradius, you can get a secret in-game turbo by picking up a power-up when your current power-up highlighted is the question mark and the thousands digit in your score is 0. Try holding down A after that to find you've unlocked Secret Turbo. For what it's worth, doing the same thing when the thousands digit is a 5 will earn you a free 10,000 points instead.
Thank you, Fluff. That's a nice slew of cheats and tips right there. Make things easier. Just like when there's too many sprites on the screen and the frame rate suffers, actually makes things easier. Gives you more time to react. Realize, as we went to Fluff there, I believe I said historic fact. I'm not sure what that means, but I definitely heard it too. So the core right here is, if I can put on my Gary hat, easy enough to dodge. Actually, if you just kind of stay between two shots, this mini-boss will just kind of float back and forth, and a lot of times you don't even have to move, but this strategy works just as well here. Move into the 6th stage. Let's get one last Fluff fact about Gradius with Fluff.
After the first space shooters of the late 70s like Space Invaders and Asteroids, Namco's Xevious made shooters popular again upon its release in 1982. For the first game he released, Konami's Machiguchi Hiroyasu wanted to create a game which surpassed Xevious in quality. He cited that game as being one of the major influences for Gradius, along with Star Wars and the science fiction novel series Lensman. The earliest versions of this game had players picking up unique power-ups before the team decided on the power-up bar to give players the choice as to what weapons they wanted at will. Hiroyasu and his team were purportedly very nervous leading up to the game's release, having little experience designing games and even less confidence in what they were doing. As it happened, their anxiety was ill-placed considering it became one of the best-selling arcade games of 1985 and sold over 1 million copies of the NES port alone.
Hey Fluff, before you go, is there any kind of connection between Gradius and Life Force, given that they look so similar?
Yep, there's a good reason for that. Life Force, also from Konami, is an updated port of another arcade title from Konami named Salamander, which itself is a spin-off to Gradius and was released in 1986, the year after Gradius was initially released in arcades. So essentially, Life Force is a spin-off of Gradius and retains the same world, visuals, and even main character and Vic Viper.
There you go, Fluff. So we're not going crazy. Thank you very much. Hidden one up if you take the top road above that, by the way. But next boss, Gary.
Boss beaters.
Alright, the 6th boss, second to last in Gradius. Stay in the middle of the left side of the screen. Just fire your laser constantly. This is a safe spot. If you keep firing, as you can see, you'll take him down.
Thank you very much, Gary. Alright, as we get into the final, just keep shooting. I think we got this. Doesn't seem like we're doing damage, but eventually, there it is. They let you pass. Might be another instance where you just need to outlast it, but regardless, a lot of bosses like that in this game, but you still want to take out those targets. Less guns, less things floating around the screen. So this is a very difficult level as well, but it's not one that you can skip, so as you can see, there was no mini-boss following the boss. So, the difficulty here is they try to cage you in a very tight space. Give you very little room to operate. This is the one instance where I might recommend the double. As you can see, we're using it here. So if you want to switch over to at this point, it's your call. Just kind of nice because when you're working in such close quarters that you want to be able to disarm the roof, floor beneath you, and everything in front of you with your options. So note the enemies which spawn in, just really trying to force us into these very tight spaces where we have no room to maneuver. You'll notice that we can take that bullet there we go. We refill I think we just took a couple shots there, but it's very quick and easy to get our shield back primed, ready again. I'm not sure if we mentioned this, but you can see you can move the options just by essentially moving your ship. So if you want an option above you, you just move down essentially, and vice versa. If you want it beneath you, just move up. Want to make sure we stay to the front of the screen in this part right here, because that will close, and if you don't get in there in time, you'll be killed. So just keep that in mind, and to take us home, here is Gary.
Boss beaters.
Like the final boss of Gradius. fire your gun. Or don't, it really doesn't make a difference. Congratulations, you have beaten one heck of a difficult game in Gradius.
Yes, really is one of the toughest space shooters of all time for my money. Excellent work to my TAs today. Thank you so much. As we enjoy our moment here, very proud of that no-death run we pulled off there. Very underwhelming ending, but this one, it's not about the ending if you beat it. It's about the sense of accomplishment that not a lot of people get to experience. So, congratulations. Please consider subscribing if you have not yet already done so. We do one of these classes every single week. We would love to have you enrolled. Click that like button too. It really does help us out to make future classes for you, and leave a comment. Did we learn you anything new about this game you didn't already know? Did you know the Life Force Gradius connection? Did you know if you hold down A and B when you reset, you get to see this screen right here? Alright, I think we're tapped out now. That's going to do it for this week. We'll see you next week in the same spot right here on Video Games 101. Hope to see you then. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like and comment on this video, and click subscribe if you haven't already, as this seriously helps me to keep making great content for you. And check the description of this video to see what song is playing right now.